Hey folks, how's it going? Matt here at the Entrepreneurship Center, back with some more 10-minute or less business. We're cruising through the left side of the canvas. In this video, I'm going to talk about the key activities and resources in the same slide because I think they're fairly straightforward. So the first thing that we want to talk about is key activities. And this is literally everything that you have to do to add the value that you promised in the right side of the canvas to your customer. This can be a lot of different things depending on the complexity of your business model, the areas that you operate in, how geographically spread out you are, how broad your market is, how complex are your logistics to source products and get them back, manufactured, and inventory management and all that stuff, e-commerce fulfillment. So this really takes a bit of work to identify, but this is where the real planning part of your business will come down to. For each one of these subtopics that I have, you probably could go and spend an entire day, or you should spend an entire day working on each one of these. And that essentially is where a full traditional business plan comes from, is you actually sit down and you work through each one of these capacities. But for our purposes, these could be things like research and development, manufacturing, doing your shipping and receiving, your actual leadership time, your strategy time, e-commerce activities, building and maintaining your website, all of your marketing functions that we talked about before, tech support, customer support, sales, marketing, order fulfillment, basically everything that has to happen between your customer clicking buy and then receiving their product, and all of the back-end stuff that has to go into this. So, if you've ever worked in a job, I assume most of you have, this is the kind of stuff, like what happens every single day to make the end product come out the door, to have next year's end product come out the door when it's supposed to come up with cool new ideas that will launch in 5 to 10 years to keep you ahead of the competition. All of that stuff would be considered a key activity. So I would take that and put that in there. These ones are all pretty relevant for our tech toy example. There's probably more we can add in here as well, but we're a bit limited on space. That is one of the downsides of the canvas. Sometimes people run out of room, but again, it's a brainstorming tool more than anything, right? This isn't your be all and end all. Oh, I stopped sharing my screen. We're going back in the zone here. Okay. And then we're going to talk about key resources. And this is all of the literal things you have to deliver on those key activities, right? So if you have an R&D process as a key activity, then you should be able to identify the staff who are going to do those research and development activities. Maybe it's a chemist. And then if you have a chemist, maybe you have a lab that you have to maintain. And then you have to have someone clean the lab, and you have to have someone order the chemicals, and you have to actually have the chemicals in the lab and the fume hoods and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I mean with this. It's the actual literal things you need to make it happen. It's your staff, it's your equipment, it's financial resources. I don't have capital, operating capital, credit lines, investors, any of that sort of stuff listed here in the bullet points, but it's just as important because you have to pay for this somehow. And if you're looking at a startup, you obviously would need to purchase a lot of this stuff right out of the gate or finance it or whatever, and that's all still very relevant. So these are also the real nuts and bolts parts of running the business, like your internet bill, your power bill, your water bill, the lease on your space, the lease on your manufacturing space, the lease on your company vehicles. All this stuff adds up. It all costs money, and you need to account for it, because as we get to the cost section, we'll draw on the key resource section to actually brainstorm some of the costs that we need to run the business. So I would say that this stuff is just as important as everything else, and it's directly tied to delivering on your value proposition. So this last bullet point I have here, I think, is relevant. Basically, anything that you have to spend money on to acquire to run your business should go into key resources, because if it's not here, you're going to forget about it, and then it could be a major expense that you don't forecast for, and then you're on the hook for it. So again, put this in here. I've tried to tailor it a little bit, but again, these are fairly broad categories. We're running a broad business concept as an illustrator. So I have things like your office lease, your manufacturing facility, your manufacturing equipment, your shipping, that should be contractor, your company vehicles, technology licenses could be important as well. Maybe you have to license a patent that somebody else has, right? You need to negotiate those things. Staff for the office, staff for your manufacturing. You might have some sort of an order fulfillment unit, or potentially you subcontract that out as well. all of your regular costs, water, phone, internet, your legal fees, your accounting fees, your bookkeeping fees, your business license fees, your banking fees, all this sort of stuff all has to be taken into account here in the key resource section. And of course, the way that you decide to handle these things could be major strategic decisions for you. Some people that run businesses that I know subcontract almost all of this activity. So they subcontract the manufacturing, they subcontract the packaging, they subcontract inventory, shipping, fulfillment, all that stuff. And they do it with really large companies operating from very small central offices, and everything else is just a web of contractors. Or there's other companies that do all of that stuff on their own. It's not one is necessarily the right answer for everybody, but there's probably a right answer for your concept. And it's best to then lean on your key partners, like your advisors and your mentors, to figure out what is the best one for you. And sometimes the best one is the one that gets going right away. And then, once you're running and operating, you can figure out what may work better depending on. So I think that's also really important. So in the next video, we're going to talk about the cost structure, and then we're going to do one more on telling a cohesive story with your business model canvas. So I will see you